We're here on the floor of HP Discover 2004, standing here with Matt Kimball from AMD. Matt, can you tell us what do you do over at AMD?
I'm a product marketing manager, so I work within the server business unit, and my job is to take all the really cool technology we do and look at the solutions that are being built on top of that and go tell the story, educate the market, explain the unique benefits of AMD, and explain how these solutions actually play within the end user community or the IT community.
Well, that's excellent. We're doing a lot of podcasts here and talking to a lot of people about AMD technology, about Moonshot, about HDI. And what I want to ask you is, we're hearing it from the crowd, from the channel, from the guys. What does AMD think of, where do you see it play? How are the benefits you bring?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So to back up a little bit, AMD within VDI, HDI, that whole hosted computing scenario, if you will, we've been doing this stuff since before time, it seems, and we've seen the evolution from terminal services, metaframe, all the way out to these new advances like HDI or these new deployment models. HDI is interesting, right? Because it kind of delivers on the promise of VDI in every way, in a way that VDI couldn't, right? It gives that end user experience, that local-like experience that everybody's been trying to achieve, but nobody's been able to do with VDI. But it also, from an IT perspective, it gives me that centralized management, simplified deployment, resiliency for that desktop user or that end user. So it really marries the benefits of VDI, or delivers on the promise of VDI, yet in a slightly different way, right? Which is really cool. But how does AMD play in that? So we build underlying technology. It's called an APU. And what that does is it takes a GPU and a CPU, essentially fuses it on the same die, gives it some memory to share between it, and that helps that overall compute experience for an end user increase quite a bit. So when you look at Moonshot and you look at all the cool density plays around Moonshot, what it does, what it doesn't do, the underlying technology that really allows you to get that density and that local-like experience is the AMD APU, the 2150.
That's really great. Can you talk about some of your customers? Do you have any success stories around what you guys are doing?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's a lot of interest. If you look at kind of the interest in HDI, we just did a session actually here at Discover, and there was standing room only. I mean, people are coming in droves to learn more about this kind of buzzword technology. We're at Citrix Synergy just about 3 weeks ago, and essentially the same thing. The keynote on HDI was packed. Our booth, we were turning people away because we didn't have enough time to talk with them. So you're finding companies, both large and small, seeing the benefit of this. And the really cool thing is when you look at this whole kind of HDI play and who does what and how AMD fits in there, there's one solution. It's AMD, it's Moonshot from HP, and it's Citrix with Zen Desktop.
I think that says it all, but there's one other piece that really blows my mind, and that is the cost savings.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about the cost savings?
Yeah, it's interesting because one of the big hits on VDI, even when it first came out, was, hey, this thing's gonna be really expensive, but it's gonna save you time and money in the long run, right? But it's gonna be this huge capital expenditure. You have SANs to worry about, you've got added capacity or bandwidth to worry about on the network, you've got all these servers you have to go buy to support these end users. So the deployment cost was astronomical. And everybody kind of just acknowledged that up front and said, yeah, we get it, it's really expensive, but it's gonna save us a lot of headaches, save us a lot of time, and make end users happy. Well, guess what? It was really expensive, it didn't make the end users happy, and it didn't really save as much time and headache for IT as that IT professional as they had anticipated. With Moonshot, that's a drastically different story. You don't have to worry about that back-end infrastructure that's required to support a solution like this. You've got localized storage, you've got network capacity coming out of each cartridge, so you don't have to worry about, am I flooding my pipes? Am I overloading my pipes when everybody logs in the morning? You don't run into those issues, so you don't have to make all those additional investments to get this thing up and running. So IT's starting to realize that while TCO is kind of a squishy story that everybody loves and loves to talk about, while IT can still tell that TCO story, they can also talk about the cost savings at even the deployment stage of a solution like HDI. So it's really cool.
Yeah, it truly is, and I mean, you said it well, perfectly, absolutely. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to be here, and I'm blown away by what you guys do. I think you said it perfectly in my first question. That is, HDI really brings the promise of VDI to the world.
That's a really cool story, and I love the fact that we have guys like you out there with your podcast, with your site, just kind of being the advocate for solutions like this, kind of going out there, and this is relatively new, and I know IT is conservative, I'm an ex-IT guy, we're conservative adopters of technology, but having advocates like you out in the ether of the internet, kind of helping educate and make people aware about this and take away some of the mythology is really helpful. So thanks for all you do.
I appreciate that.
What's your website, by the way?
dabcc.com. Definitely visit dabcc.com for the latest and greatest in cloud and virtualization news, as I always like to say. But I totally agree with you. What we've been trying to do for so long, Matt, is really provide a better way to compute. But yet to allow the users to do what they need to do, right? And that's what, we've seen that progression over the years, first with server-based computing, moving the things back into the desktop and the applications back into the data center, right? And then moving the desktop. And now we're sort of seeing that culmination of the two and giving us the user experience, the cost savings. What more can you ask for?
You know what's interesting? We did some primary research way back in 2006 around hosted computing and the concept of moving that desktop back into the data center. The number one concern that IT had was the cultural revolution. That was the biggest barrier to entry. People couldn't personalize their desktops. They couldn't add those applications for music sharing or whatever, and they didn't have that same localized experience. And everybody thought VDI is that fix for that, right? I can now put the picture of my kid playing baseball up as my wallpaper. That's only one small part of the user experience, right? And VDI was never able to capitalize on that. Fast forward 8 years later, and that cultural barrier or that cultural revolution, it's still the number one barrier to adoption.
It's always been and always will be.
Yeah.
Because we're not here for us.
Right.
I think that we really get so entrenched in our world. Oh, look at how many IOPS I have. Look at what I can do. Look how cool this is, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's just about the end user. That's our job.
Yep. Us guys that are sitting in the server room, that are getting all excited by all the green lights and the fact that we have this kind of 100% uptime of our users, and look at how our service rates are going up. It means nothing to an end user who clicks on a mouse and has to wait for 2 seconds for an icon to be activated, right? That's what HDI fixes for me.
Well, that summarizes it perfectly. Matt, again, thank you so much for doing all this with us. Thank you.
Thank you.